Hey guys, Infidel 1258 here. So I want to talk more about this new reward proposal. And in this video, I'm going to attempt to address both sides of the conversation with patience and grace. And I want to say out of the gate that I feel my last video didn't do that well. And so I have strong opinions about this topic. I'm emotional about this topic. I think I know what's best for this game, just like you do. And when we come at the topic from two different angles and you have a strong opinion and I have a strong opinion, we're going to butt heads. And I think that's not a bad thing. But even when I do that, when I say no, when I say you're wrong, when I say I totally disagree, I want to say it with grace and patience. And I feel that the last video didn't accomplish that. And I feel for that reason, it was not as productive as it could have been. So hopefully this will be the last conversation we have over this. And if you feel you already know what's up and you already have your mind made up, maybe this video is not for you. But if you still don't really fully understand the new reward proposal or what the community is saying and both for and against, then this might be for you, because we're going to go through all of the comments from the last couple of videos that have anything important or meaningful to say about constructive criticism or really great support for what's going on here. So if that sounds interesting, stick around, stay tuned, like and subscribe. Okay. I guess out of the gate, we got to explain that there's a new reward proposal. It's going to change how the rewards are paid out. And what it'll imply or what it'll necessitate is that if you're playing in silver, you require, if you're playing in silver league, you require a max level bronze deck. If you're playing in gold league, you require a max level silver deck, diamond, max level gold, and champion max level diamond. No, it's champion you maxed out. So there are, at every league level, there's a bit of window where you can wiggle and you don't need to have everything perfected for that league. That's one point that not everybody understands right out of the gate. You got to know that. The second thing is this new problem for people will be encountered by every player. And so with certain key cards, if you have a Creeping Ooze, a Furious Chicken, a Fiend, and you play a level 1 BCX at Diamond, that's not going to be a big problem because most of their players are doing the same thing. And therefore, you're not going to receive any sort of distinguishing punishment or penalty, because if everyone is penalized for using that low BCX card, then no one is, because it's applied across evenly. And so your proportion of the reward pie will not change. So those are two key points we need to say out the gate before we even get into the comments, because I keep seeing those issues raised as, well, this is unfair, and this is those problems, a lack of understanding on those two key topics are underlying some of the criticism. And so without any sort of further preamble, let's get into the comments. There's a ton of them. This kind of started with Furious Chicken, who gave me some constructive feedback, which I received, and that's prompting to some degree this video. He goes, man, it feels like you really took his comment personally. And this is referring to the Punishing Smart Play video that was released this morning, October 20th. And I would agree, actually. I did take it personally because there was language that pointed it to land on me. Now, I could have said, and I ought to have said, well, you know, it's not personal. You're trying to make it personal, but it's not. And I'm going to just push that aside. I should have, I didn't. That was a failure on my part. So I agree. And he goes, I can feel you were offended by the term you, and despite you sounding calm in the video, I feel your passive aggressiveness. Okay. He feels I overgeneralized his point of view, and as a result that it was nonsensical and didn't provide any substantive, productive conversation. And then he goes, I agree with the proposal, but I want the threshold expanded per league. Okay. So that's a constructive comment. That's like a constructive content that we could kick around. Maybe these league levels are not accurate. Maybe you could say, I don't know. I'm not sure how these are probably, in some sense, these are arbitrary, right? They've just said, you know, max silver deck and gold and max gold deck and diamond, or max gold deck and diamond, etc. I guess you could tweak it, but I mean, where does one draw the line in the sand in such a way? And I'm not convinced that you could articulate, or that anyone could articulate, a better kind of first guess at what this could look like. If you came in here and you just arbitrarily said, well, you know, it should be level 1 legendaries at gold. Why? You know, it's only 3 BCX for a legendary. What is it that much harder to get a level 2 legendary? And as we've outlined in the beginning of the video, we have to remember that if it's really so hard to get like a level, for instance, a level 2 legendary fiend to play into gold, which I argue is hard because you don't need it. It doesn't add value. It's like $15 or $20 wasted, quote unquote. I would say wasted because you really only need 1 BCX. So if your argument is, why would I do it? It doesn't feel reasonable to demand that of me. I don't know where that argument ends. And you almost might say there shouldn't be any requirements. So I don't know how while I hear his critique and I hear him saying, you know, this reasonable conversation piece around, should we expand the thresholds and give maybe like a wider berth for the card limitations and a lower penalty essentially for having lower level cards. I can agree in principle and yet say I don't know where you would draw the lines in a better way. It feels logical, it feels reasonable, and that's all I can really say. I mean, it does feel as though it is arbitrary. I'm not going to say not entirely arbitrary. I mean, saying the gold league requires silver cards is a full league below. I mean, should we say 2 full leagues below? And if so, why? I mean, this feels reasonable, and maybe we just have to agree to disagree there, but that's something you each need to think about. Is 1 league requirement too much to ask? I don't think so. But I appreciate Furious Chicken's, comment on that. And I even said to him, I said, I think you're right. I tried really hard to be patient while answering the question, and I felt it was important because it represented a certain prevailing attitude in our game. But I didn't do a great job of detaching myself from the argument. It's a struggle because I really want to help our community realize the limitation of the idea that we are victims and we are when we get nerfed, and point us back to the fact that we really are getting paid to play a game, even if that is a minor payment, right? And even if you haven't realized a payment because you bought in for $1,000 and it's turned into 500 because of the depreciation, the lowering prices of those values over the last few months, you still have an opportunity to receive income from a game. And that's not the story with most games. So with that in my mind, I always come to the conversations around these nerfs and say, wow, it used to be so much worse. And I don't hear that very often. What I hear is just a general kind of frustration and disappointment. 2 weeks ago, 2 months ago, it was so much better. And now it's probably going to change for the worse for some people if this proposal goes through. For some people, key point. And I guess I want to see more of the community recognizing that if the game pays anything at all, that's amazing. That's revolutionary. And, if you don't see it that way, I need to take that in stride because very few do. Very few people see that reality. But here's the thing, guys. If you don't see it that way, I don't really believe you'll be here in 4 years. And I think you need to almost adopt that sentiment and that interpretation of rewards in Splinterlands so that the trivial rewards you're receiving on a daily and a season basis, you're not even going to care about, you're not even going to think, wow, I'm making a ton of money, or you're not going to think this is going to change my life, but quietly it will accumulate and it can translate to that over a long time horizon. That is, I don't know that you can survive Splinterlands bear markets if you don't hold on to this. That's why I push this idea so hard that even if you're quote unquote not being paid in some sense because your value has gone down since you initially bought in, you have to remember that there's an opportunity to receive financial benefit, and that's unique. And that is where my focus always rests, and that's where I'm trying to point you guys back to. So let's carry on. Let's see. Chicken went on to say, he said, I understand you're coming from a good place. I totally feel that you genuinely believe in your point of view. That's why you're doing these vids, to help the community. Yep. but allow me a few moments to share a different point of view. So this will be the first one that I want to get into, the first detailed, I guess, pushback, so that hopefully I can better understand his point of view and maybe the point of view of many of you. I don't think it's the majority, but for a number of you. So let's get into it. Imagine a new player getting this reward change only a few weeks after the last. They just bought their cards, barely getting rewards from chests in bronze and silver, and they were intrigued to play the game due to potential earnings. Probably even saw it from one of your vids. Now they were planning to go to gold to try their luck, but now they can't anymore unless they put in more money. They now understood that they will never earn the assets they need to compete in higher leagues levels. All they can do is put in more and more. See, I don't agree with some of this. That's the problem. Like, I want to keep reading, but I feel like I'm trying to take in the fullness of your argument, but I actually feel like you're building a foundation for an argument that I just reject. And yet I'm hearing it. I want you to know that I'm hearing it. You're saying they just started, that there was a recent change and now there's another change. That sentiment I totally agree with. That idea that you're speaking to something I actually talked about in the first video I talked about on this topic, which was called Initial Thoughts. And I said in that, it was like a 25-minute video, and I said in there, I think it was in there, or it might have been in the second video, which was called my my final thoughts on the controversial reward topic. I believe it was there with Jim and Darkest Night. I said, I feel as though our community is frustrated because there has been change after change after change, and they want to know where the ground is underneath them. So that's me trying to identify with the sentiment you're sharing. So I think I agree on that part, but then the secondary part about how they can't earn anymore unless they put in more money. I just reject that. And I have to add in, I guess we'll keep reading what you have to say, but I want to sidestep on this one point. I have been playing silver level in a variety of my accounts. I've been playing gold in a variety of my accounts. And I've been receiving several dollars worth of rewards every season. And, just a few dollars. And you might say that's not anything. But my point constantly is that it's not about the value today. The price today is one thing. The value you're receiving is another. If you get $1 worth of 1 cent assets in Splinterlands in 2022, in 2026, those 1 cent assets could be worth $1 each. And that is a retroactive raise that I think the argument you're articulating fails to acknowledge. So I want to leave that with you, and I'm going to carry on with the comment that he's raising, and I'm going to do my best to receive it all. Let's see. They now understood that they will never earn the assets they need to compete in higher levels. See, again, I reject that because of the same reason as above. As you add trivial rewards on a daily basis for playing through time and attention, whether it's at bronze or higher, you're going to accumulate collection power. You're going to accumulate reward cards. You're going to accumulate SPS and DEC, well, not DEC anymore. I guess maybe even DEC if you're getting assets that you're then renting that could then generate DEC, or if you're using SPS to work in some liquidity pool. There are so many, or if you're using some of the rewards that you accumulate to then buy monster cards to then flip monster cards for profit. There's so many ways that you can enter today in 2022 that used to exist and that still exist. That I guess that detract from the overall strength of this argument that they can no longer earn the assets they need to compete in the high level. I think that's not true. I think you can, but there's a ton of work and time and attention required to do that. All they can do is put more and more in. So you're right about this in a sense. If you want to, as you say, earn the assets that you need, you do have to put in more and more. But more and more can be money or it can be time. And I really believe that. So time over 2, 3, 4 years of playing the game every day and having fun with it, you will receive bronze level rewards with a 23% card rate drop in every sort of loot chest. And those loot chests can be, you can accumulate 20 to probably 50, even maybe even 100 loot chests. I have anyways, at bronze or silver. And those are going to have a 23% card drop rate, which are going to accumulate on a daily, weekly, monthly basis to add up over 4 years to be a significant amount of collection power with just your time. And yeah, there's going to be some financial commitment. You're going to spend $10 to get that account. Then they're going to give you 3,000 credits to spend. You can use those to rent cards, and then you're going to generate new revenue off those rentals by playing the game. And then occasionally you're going to get a card that's like a legendary, and you're going to sell it for $2-3 to fund the continued projection of that growth. So you're going to be accumulating commons and rares while occasionally liquidating a legendary and epic for the purpose of sustaining your economy without necessarily injecting your own new capital. And so I don't agree that you have to inject more and more money. I do admit that if you do that, that is absolutely going to increase what you're doing here in a much more magnified way, allowing it to multiply. If this game is going to be here in 4 years, injecting money is going to be one of the easiest ways to multiply your earnings. But it's not the only way, and I really firmly believe that. He says, now this is cool, I guess, if you're from a Western country like the US, where $100 is relatively cheap as an investment, but NFT games, including Splinterlands, are heavily advertised in poorer countries, especially Southeast Asia, to lure them players for the possibility of a quick buck. I mean, that's a shame. I think you're right. I'm going to say I think you're right, but I actually feel my channel has for months now fought against this idea. And I feel as though I say almost every video what I've already said here today, which is that these assets are deflationary in nature, and that the game pays you trivial rewards on a daily, weekly, season basis that add up over time, and that when they appreciate, which can be many years down the road, it can multiply your savings, your earnings, what you've financially received. That's not a quick buck. And I don't see Furious Chicken throwing me in that kind of conversation. But I really want to say, I hope you guys aren't hearing, you don't feel that's what I'm telling you. Because I don't know how to be more clear. This is not that. Splinterlands is definitely the sort of game where if you love it and if you just play it for fun, that's where the financial opportunity can grow out of. But if you don't really enjoy the game, then you won't put the time and attention into the game on a daily basis that can never translate into the sort of significant reward that we would probably all be hoping for with this game. So, but yeah, I think you're right though. I still agree that there's a good amount of this is happening. Like, people are selling NFT games to poorer nations from the perspective of quick buck. And that's a shame. Hopefully that's not what you're hearing here, and it will never be what I'm trying to sell. Having 3,000 a month in these countries will put you in top 1% of the earning bracket. Wow. Don't you think it would be a big disconnect if the game's requirement investment is not in line with the wallet of the majority of the demographic? Well, this is a great question. And I do think that we want our game to be priced in such a manner as to appeal to the broadest population base possible. And, most of the world, I think I've read before that something like 4 or 5 billion people in the world live off of less than $10 a day. That's the majority of the world. And sorry, I think, $10 a day. I think it might have been 6 billion people less than $10 a day. That's the majority of the world. And that goes for food, that pays for housing, that pays for, everything. And so the idea that they're going to have hundreds of dollars to drop on an NFT blockchain video game is just not true, and it just won't happen. And so if we don't price it in a certain way that allows them to have an entryway into the game, then I fully agree. We are closing doors to population for inroads and we're going to diminish the sort of growth potential for our game. So I agree. But I would say we have to then figure out do we then give everything away, right? Because there's some, and you're not saying that, but I want to say that there's clearly a middle ground that is hard for any one of us to put our finger on. Is it $4 a pack? Is it $5 a pack? Is it $1 a pack? How do we figure this stuff out? How do we label it in a way that is going to attract those players that lack that financial opportunity, while allowing growth? Because remember, the game doesn't grow without hiring new staff, without writers and artists and economics students, I guess, economists working like Matt, working on how the tokenomics works and all of that. So I don't know. I mean, and I would argue that new packs being issued regularly is one of the ways that the game is always trying to leave that door open for new players. Chaos Legion packs are more expensive than Untamed packs were, but Chaos Legion packs are an interesting and low cost way to get into the game, especially now that their cost has dropped below purchase price. They're selling for like $2 on Hive Engine. And so, I agree with what you're saying, but I think there's some response that's present in our economy that could answer that problem and concern. He goes, I'm from Southeast Asia, and I understand that I'm more well off than the majority of players from my region, but I see where they're coming from. A lot of people that join NFT games see it as a potential earning opportunity in a region where $3 is more than enough for a day's meal. Totally. See, I've always recognized that this is a significant proportion of those who are interested in Splinterlands specifically, because it speaks to the demographic of those who follow my channel. And I say we want them to, I hope that our game makes opportunity for them to be, I guess, productive here, but we also need to balance that. I don't know where the line is in the sand, but I admit that there needs to be a line. He says, if someone believes that players shouldn't be looking at Splinterlands as a way to earn, but a game to invest in and have fun with, I think they're missing a big point as to why these are play to earn games. I love the devs in Splinterlands, but there are other card games out there that are way better than Splinterlands. If we only want to play a card game, the reasons we are here is because of potential to earn. Take that away, and this game becomes the next to worthless. Yeah, I mean, again, I would disagree with the sentiment and maybe agree with some of the content. The idea that we do want to recognize that people are going to have an opportunity to earn. That's one of the things that Splinterlands does offer. And it's one of the benefits that I've referred to this game as revolutionary. And I think it is, because I actually think you can earn, but I've already articulated that in the first few minutes of the video. I think it's a long time horizon. It's slow and steady. It snowballs and then magnifies as the appreciation of those assets goes up dramatically. So are you willing to play a game? That's why it has to come back to, do you think this game is fun and it has a future? It has to come back. None of it matters. Nothing matters if this game isn't fun. If it's not fun, stop playing. If it doesn't have a future, stop playing. And so we have to go there because if it's fun and has a future, then it's going to be here in 4 years. And if it's here in 4 years, the tokenomics of this game and the way that the assets, the cards specifically, are deflationary in nature will necessarily, on the foundation of it being fun and having a future, the assets will necessarily appreciate. And that's where across 4 or 5 years, like into the next bull run, that's where you, new players, can see significant appreciation. If you are solely playing the game because you really think it's gonna give you some sort of life-changing financial opportunity in the short term, this isn't the game for you. If you're solely playing it because you want it to change your life financially, this isn't the game for you. But if you think it's fun, and if you think it has a future, then playing it is something that makes a lot of sense, because I think those assets can appreciate. So I do think it's fun. And so I kind of don't agree at all about the idea of you saying that there are other cards there are other games that are way better. I don't agree. I think this game's exceptional, and I've played it for 4 years every day because of that. That's my opinion, though. It's totally subjective. And then I guess I would say on the issue of the potential to earn, I think you just have to have a different time horizon when you look at the potential to earn with a game like Splinterlands. It isn't going to be days, weeks, months. It's going to be years. And I hope if anyone stops watching this video at any point, I hope that they hear that message. This game is not about a return over days, weeks, months. It's about trivial rewards paid out slowly on a daily basis for your time and attention that can and will appreciate if this game is still running and still entertaining people in 5 years' time. And so, yeah, I think we see that differently. Although I admit that you do want this to be a play to earn game. It needs to have an opportunity. It needs to have the potential for rewarding its players. I think it does, even if this nerf happens. I'm also not convinced this proposal is a nerf. And so let's carry on. An important part of the game design is to make the game worthwhile to its entire player base. Yes, true. If there comes a time where the player base has to adjust to the game, that just isn't good game design. If there comes a time where the player base has to adjust to the game. Oh, okay. So you're saying this is representing this change would represent a period of time where new players would have to tweak what they're doing to receive reward, and that is bad reward structure. If I agree with you, if you're right that this new proposal would necessitate them changing something about how they're playing, and I don't agree to that point. Hear me. I've said it already in a couple different ways, but I'm going to try to say it again. I actually think this new reward proposal will allow people who are taking their one deck of cards seriously, and that might mean seriously at bronze or seriously at silver or seriously at gold. You're actually putting together a deck of cards and you're intentionally focusing, oh, I need this one card, it's key. I actually have to level that card up. I play it so often. And you're building a deck and you're using your time and attention. You're probably investing some money, but you don't have to. If that's you, I actually think you're going to benefit from this new proposal because you're going to be set apart from tens of thousands of accounts who aren't doing that. And therefore, the proportion of the pie that exists that you access, I believe, will grow from this proposal. And so you say, if they have to adjust to the game, that's not good game design or game reward. That's true. But I actually don't think that there's going to be this stark black and white moment where guys in gold or silver are like super shocked by the reward structure. I actually believe because of the number of thousands, in fact, tens of thousands of accounts that have next to no cards in them, that they are going to be the ones that take the brunt of this, and not you and people that are like low income that are going to be that are actively and intentionally building a deck. Heck, if you had one splinter or two splinters and you made them fully leveled to silver, you're going to be able to compete in gold in a way that was never possible before because of collection power and how that necessitated 100,000 power, for instance. But this new structure is going to change that, and we're moving away from collection power, and we're moving into a place, I think, therefore, that you're going to see that there's greater opportunity for people who recognize how to build a deck and play well with silver level assets in gold. So let's carry on. Nicola says, complete spinoff. We don't want more. We don't want more. We want same. And we constantly receive nerfs. We don't want more. We want same. I don't understand that comment. Except for that we constantly receive nerfs. There has been a lot of changes, and I'll admit that. And I've said that before. And I think we need to sort that out. We need to find some stability for a season so that people know what they're getting and for what level of investment. I think that's true. We already had more than the last few months, like 5x or 500%, and they are starting to scale it back a little in certain niche areas, like 10 to 20%, says Dom. Makos is complaining that if there's been 500% increases in potion distribution. And Dom replies, switching from DC to SPS was already a 5x in reward value without counting cards. In bronze, you get only 1 chest a day and 5 at end of season. Now you get 30 a day and over 100 per end of season. And that's a point that I don't hear anyone who's critical of these reward changes ever bringing up. Dom's bringing it up, but he's in support of these changes. And I don't hear anyone who's critical ever say, we did only get 1 chest a day in bronze, and now we get potentially 30. But, here I'm still frustrated about this new thing. That would be so refreshing. That would be really refreshing, but I don't hear it. And that's where some of my frustration comes out of the place of like, it's actually just, you're not really recognizing, I'm not speaking to one person specifically, just broadly a community of people with this kind of general frustration. You guys aren't really seeing the full story here. It's gone from next to no rewards at all to substantial rewards, and now they're pulling it back to some degree, trying to find that middle ground. And I agree, we want to figure that out and settle in, and we don't want to see a ton of changes every 2 weeks. But I don't agree that it's been all potions. I don't agree that as some other people say, that the merits being paid out are negative. That's a bad thing. I don't agree that that how this reward change this new proposal would be negative. Lots of good conversation there, but let's carry on. Nomadic Seller says, Sai, I love how you will claim that you are trying to engage your audience in a productive dialogue, and then you hop on your high horse and start trashing viewers. I don't know that I do. You make it sound as though I do that regularly. I feel that probably happened in this conversation. I don't, and I've expressed regret for the tone because I do want to create an open dialogue. For some reason, people listen to you a little. Try actually being helpful instead of pretending and just using your pedestal to spew poison while acting like you're some kind of pillar to the community. Well, see, all I can say to that is, I'm sorry you didn't like it. Maybe the channel's not for you. Thanks, Nomadic Seller. Truth TCC, short story short, you should have just let it be. The whole video is bashing and has no purpose but letting you vent. You are more upset than anyone about this whole thing. Fair enough. I don't play this game, nor do I care just for the background. Just for the background? Yeah. Let's see. Tons of comments. Yellow said, to what level do you need to level up your diamond chickens? And I said, I'd say this is interesting. I'd say 1 BCX is still fine, even at champ. Why? Because all players will make that one compromise, and therefore no one is discernibly punished. And Yellow says, I'm just now watching your video on final thoughts, and you say that. Yeah, okay, cool. Bitcoin Sig says, let's put it this way. The proposal says that some players who have bought cards and had been playing and have been getting a certain amount of rewards, that they must buy more cards to get the minimum level. I don't agree that that's true. And I think I've said so in a few ways. Or they will face lower rewards. Again, we don't know that because it's not just, do you comply with the new rule? If not, fewer rewards. I hope you're hearing this, Bitcoin Sig. It's not just, if you fail to comply, you will be punished. It's actually, if you fail to comply and everyone else fails to comply, it's moot. It doesn't make a difference to your reward distribution or theirs. And in the context of how our game works and how our community participates in this game, it probably looks something like, if you fail to comply occasionally and in certain specific ways, like with Creeping Ooze and Furious Chicken and the Fiends, well, you're not going to see any sort of negative benefit or loss, because those are very common, I guess, low BCX cards that we use. But if a bot runs many cards that are low level BCX, that are 1 BCX, because of that's all they ever bought, because they're trying to minimize their investment to extract maximum rewards, that account will be disproportionately punished, if you want to use that word. And therefore you might actually benefit, because certain players who have no cards at all or very under-leveled cards are receiving a disproportionate penalty, while you are receiving a moderate penalty, and therefore you are actually gaining. That's the thing, guys. The upheaval is largely because it's easier to grasp how you now you need to buy and level your cards, or you'll be docked rewards you are currently getting, rather than the esoteric promise that they will be getting hypothetically more rewards despite being docked for cards they haven't completely leveled. It's not like anyone who is for the proposal can say exactly how much more they would make versus the cost of leveling the deck. But I can see why players are upset. It's far easier to show that you will only get 90% of your rewards than to show you that you will be getting 10% more in rewards from the reward pool. Yeah, I mean, some of the math is not clear, and I wish it could be. I don't know. One of the things I've said in one of my videos is it'd be great if we could see data from Splinterlands teams about how many silver level accounts that play in silver have under-leveled cards based on this parameter that they're setting out, right? We could probably, the blockchain probably has that data. That's probably data we could scrape. If we could put that information together, we could probably answer in a more, I guess, accurate and meaningful way the question, are the rewards going to go up for you, right? Like there almost should be, you put in your, what if you put in your, why can't you put in your account name into like a search engine, and it says at the Silver League level, your deck, it would equate to, 99th percentile of complete, like one of the more complete decks in the silver account, or in the gold, you're only the top 70th, or so on. That should be possible. I don't know how to execute something like that, but it would be great if that was possible, so people who have concerns around this new proposal could actually understand in a more clear manner how well this would, or how negatively this would impact their returns. I do wish there was more clarity there. He says, lol, dude, the way you handle these salt videos makes me smile. I know I'm a bit salty individual, but you really handle them better than the best salt miners. Thanks for the entertainment. I mean, I'm glad you enjoyed it. I was feeling frustrated with myself over it. So, and I've shared that in a variety of comments. Adam says, the new proposal is causing division between the community because those with more SPS money, as most people see it, get a more weighted vote, and some think that's fair, some don't. So of course it's going to be the classic rich versus poor or underdog. I also think the new proposal is exposing card design flaws, i.e. the Fiend and the Furious Chicken. The team should consider fixing those cards or implementing new game designs that will encourage card combining more, and not by reducing rewards. That's an interesting idea. I don't know how you would, there's probably a lot of thinking that would have to go in that, and any sort of retroactive change to any card would be really criticized at this late stage. If you try to change the Furious Chicken at this point, people would be pretty PO'd. So I was thinking they could give a reward boost to leveled cards instead. So just do the opposite of the proposal. Reward players more for having leveled up cards, and they would take care of the Fiend issue. People wouldn't feel punished. This is interesting. This is an interesting idea. I kind of feel, I look at it in this light. Like I look at it already in the light of, if you build a deck that is maximally efficient, like at the silver level, the maximized Silver League cards, and then you bring it to gold, you're actually going to receive maximum benefit. You're going to receive increased rewards. That's how I frame it. But the framing that they've provided has made it sound as though, framed it in the punitive light. And so this might be a marketing issue more than a difference of implementation. So I agree, this would be great if the framing was done in like the opposite terminology, making it a positive thing for those who have decks of X caliber. He says, 12, take a breath, bro, and try not to take all the comments personally. I get it. It probably feels like a lot of hate in comment section, and emotion gets us all sometimes. Lately, I've disagreed with you on a lot of stuff, and I've thought about unsubscribing from your channel. I'm still here because you do make good points sometimes, and it's good to hear other people's opinions that disagree with you. Sometimes you'll notice or realize something you didn't before. It also feels like a place where my voice can be heard some. And finally, in time, the Splinterlands game will speak for itself. Lots of competition on the horizon. We will see how it does. I don't agree with everything Splinterlands does, but I hope all their games do amazing. Yeah, thanks, Adam. I appreciate that. And he's been a supporter of the channel for many, many months, and he was one of my scholars for a period of time, and so thank you for that too. I agree. I don't agree with everything that they do. In fact, I said initially about this proposal that I think there's better ways to skin this cat. Like they're trying to target accounts that have no discernible investment in Splinterlands, which you might label as bots. But I would argue does include some people from for instance, like Furious Chicken was saying earlier, like some from the Southeast Asia environment where money is totally different and they have very limited assets and therefore they buy very few cards. And so we don't want to punish like a young man or woman who's trying to get into the game and who has limited assets, but at the same time, we can't give away the rewards for free. How do we navigate that? I don't know. And then earlier you talked about how some people disagree with how the SPS is used to weight votes. So yeah, you say how, some people disagree with how SPS is used as like a barometer for how much weight your vote has. I just don't know how else to do that unless we wanted to make Splinterlands the centralized model where Aggie and Yaba have like the say so, and they just say X and X is done. There's not any consultation with the community. There's no sort of, hey guys, what do you think about this proposal? It's just, this is the way rewards work. Bam, implemented, done. And then we would then, in a sense, we would then vote by either buying more cards and investing in the game or not. And that is still a type of voting. It's voting with your dollar. And so I think at the end of the day, this SPS mechanic is part of what Splinterlands has always kind of said they were going to do, and now they are doing. And I think while it might not be perfect, in fact, it's clearly not perfect. I just don't know any better way. And it is what Splinterlands has always been aiming at. And so I appreciate your support, Adam, and I appreciate the comment. And yeah, recently we've been butting heads. I hope that you recognize that I appreciate your contribution. And even to the other people who are like, I think the word is pissed at what I say in this video. I mean, guys, I need to end it here, but I just want to say, I really believe that this game is meaningful and it represents a potentially future transforming video game, which is a ludicrous sentence. Why would a video game transform your future? I think it can though. And it's not something that happens overnight. And so I'm trying to, I guess, speak to how that's possible. And I'm trying to urge caution and patience when I speak to you guys and I hear criticism, and I'm trying to say, guys, put that down. It's not helping you. Your understanding of, oh, well, my rewards are going to be lower. I actually think they probably won't be. And then simultaneously, if they are lower, I just think you have to think long term. You can't think days or weeks or months. You have to think years down the road. And more than that, if you're playing solely for rewards, then this just isn't the game for you. And I don't say that out of like bitterness or frustration. I just say it out of truth, because you shouldn't be investing and playing this game thinking it's going to turn something around financially in a short period of time. It just won't. It's, I guess it could if you got lucky in some respect and sort of timing, but you can't plan on that. And so my hope and my intention for the channel is to definitely educate you guys around my view, but also simultaneously to understand, to grow in my own understanding of this thing. And when I fail to do that well, I am going to stand up and say that. But simultaneously, I am not going to agree with you because you dropped a comment. Some of the people here just say some things, and I might have to say from time to time, you're totally wrong, and I will. But where I want to finish here, and hopefully what you've seen in this video, is that when I say I disagree, it's done in a way that's like, well, I mean, I see what you're saying, but I just totally disagree, and here's why. And then you can hold up my criticism and say, well, maybe I agree with him, or no, he's totally wrong, and throw the whole thing away. And then you're stronger in your own position because you've heard criticism and put it aside, or you've put your own idea through critique and criticism, and you feel, no, I was wrong. Okay, so I hope that was valuable. I'm hoping that this is the last I'll have to say on this, because it really is too tense of a conversation. I'm just going to leave it to this last video, and then I'm going to vote on it. But unless something new pops up in the community, unlocking some sort of, real detail that undermines what I'm now saying, I'm of the opinion this proposal is for the best, that it probably will mean more rewards for most players who are taking this game seriously, and that although we want to allow inroads for brand new players, I actually don't think that this takes away those opportunities. And so it feels generally positive, even though it's not perfect, and I will 100% agree with that. So I'm voting yes for now. Thanks guys for your time and attention, and for your patience and peacefulness in, I guess, expressing your frustration in over my previous video on this. So, and shout out to Hendrik for starting the conversation. And one last time, dude, I appreciate the comment. I'm super sorry that I guess, spoke my disagreement. I disagree with you, but I always want to do that respectfully, and I didn't. So sorry for that. Have an amazing day. God bless.